Dear friends, here are 4 new adventures from Thomas's branch line. In them, you will meet up again with several old friends, including, of course, Thomas himself. Oh, and there is a new friend for you called Victoria. We all hope you will like her as much as we do, the author. Toby and Henrietta have been helping around the quarry a lot lately. They were in charge of taking the workmen to the quarry at the daytime and bring them back to the station when it's closing time. They didn't find it easy at all. There were way too many workmen for them to carry. Henrietta doesn't like the idea of carrying all of them, and neither does Toby. But thankfully they have Bertie who helps them carry the rest, so it's not so difficult for everyone. But one day, everything was very difficult for the 2 of them. Bertie broke down and was getting repaired with new parts, so the 2 had to do all the work themselves. Get in quickly, please! But when all the workmen climbed into Henrietta, they felt cramped and squashed like a tomato. Even Henrietta herself hated it. She could have sworn that her buffers were nearly touching the ground from the heavy workmen.
I don't think I'm able to move, Toby. There's gotta be someone else to help us.
I'm sorry, dear, but we can't have any help right now. Everyone is really busy today, so we're on our own instead.
Henrietta was very upset to hear that. She would have loved some help from someone to make things easier. Just then, the guard blew his whistle, and Toby started to move. It was not easy at all from pulling all the workmen in his coach. But he kept on trying. At last, they were moving on the rails. But that didn't make it easier for him. He was moving slower than he normally does. When he passes by an engine or a few people, they stare at him with weird expressions on their faces. But Toby just ignores them and continues his journey to the quarry. When they made it to the crossing, he looked both ways to see if there was anyone coming. And there wasn't. So Toby rang his bell and set off again. But then there was trouble. Out of nowhere, a car was racing on the roads really fast, and when Toby tried to stop, it was too late. Luckily, no one was seriously hurt, but Toby's buffers were a bit bent and a police officer saw the wreck. He walked up to them and started writing in his notebook.
Listen, officer, we checked both sides of the crossing and we were free to go.
I don't care. It still caused a serious wreck that could have killed someone. I'll be speaking to your manager later.
He got back onto his bike and left the miserable engine behind.
Just as I thought today couldn't get any more difficult, it just had to happen. How can this get any worse?
Toby didn't say anything. He just stared up at the sky, praying for a miracle. The next day, the inspector came to talk to the manager after hearing what happened with Toby and the car.
There seems to be too many problems already, and you need to fix it before it gets any worse.
Look, it wasn't Toby's fault. He was just doing his job and that car was being clueless.
I'm aware of that, and I'm not going to put any charges against you or his crew. But with Toby having to pull every single workman in his small coach, that'll cause even more trouble. So I suggest you find someone to help him carry them before even more trouble happens. Good day.
And just like that, the inspector walked towards his car and drove away. The manager had no idea what to do and was feeling stressed about it.
If only Bertie didn't break down.
Meanwhile, Thomas was on his branch line pulling passengers with his 2 coaches. When he stopped at a station, he was in a very bright mood. What a brilliant day today! How can anything get in the way for a day like this? But he spoke too soon, as he heard a mysterious voice.
Hello? Is someone there?
Thomas was surprised. He was now puzzled on what he could hear. Who's there? But there wasn't a reply. It was pure silence now, but Thomas was still curious on who that could be. He figured the voice came from behind the trees. So he slowly puffed towards the trees, and he was surprised by what he found. The voice came from an old-looking coach. She was rusty and didn't even have wheels, but she was friendly and caring-looking, and spoke to him again.
Oh there, I've seen you passing by here many times for years now. My name is Victoria, and I can tell you that you take care of your coaches well like a useful engine does. What's your name?
My name is Thomas. How long have you been there? But before she could answer, the guard blew his whistle. Oh, sorry, I gotta get moving. It was nice meeting you, Victoria. So he coupled back to his coaches and set off for the next station. Victoria was upset at this. She wanted to know more about him and be friends with him. It's been a long time since she was put there and hasn't moved at all. She hasn't even had friends for a long time and wants to be a really useful coach again. But little did she knew that her big break was about to happen. That night at the sheds, Toby was talking to Thomas about the chaos he and Henrietta had to go through.
I'm telling you, Thomas, we may be happy to pull passengers again after the shutdown of our railway, but this is taking things too far. Without Bertie helping us, we have to do all the work ourselves. If only someone was able to help us instead of being busy all the time.
That was Thomas's chance to tell Toby about Victoria. So he took a deep breath and started talking to him. Actually, Toby, I might know someone who can help. I just met her today, but didn't have enough time to get to know her due to my schedule.
Really? What's her name?
Her name is...
Thomas, don't you dare start talking about that coach from today. She doesn't have any wheels and leaks like an old pipe, so I don't see the point rambling about her, and don't you dare talk about her tonight.
But Thomas didn't listen to him and talked to Toby about Victoria anyway. Toby was surprised by what he heard.
Good grief, Thomas. She was there all this time and now you're noticing her? You better tell Sir Topham Hatt about this.
Thomas agreed and got his chance the next morning. When he was picking up passengers at the first station, there was Sir Topham Hatt making sure everything was working like clockwork. Sir, can I talk to you for a minute? He told him about the old coach who needs repairs and can definitely help Toby and Henrietta for carrying the workmen. Sir Topham Hatt liked the idea and called the quarry manager and told him everything, and they agreed to start working on Victoria. When Toby and Henrietta arrived at the quarry, the manager was there waiting for them with the news.
I have very good news for you two. There's finally going to be someone who can help you carry the workmen back and forth.
Who is it?
Oh, I can't tell you that right now till we have everything scheduled, but you'll like the new help. Just wait for a few days and you'll see who it is. You're going to need all the help you can get.
Toby knew who the help was going to be, but he stayed silent and pretended that he didn't know, leaving the confused coach left out.
Don't worry, Hans. I'm sure it's going to be someone important for us.
That made her feel a bit better, but still wondering who could this important help be. After the agreement about Victoria, Sir Topham Hatt had Henry and Rocky to pick her up and send her to the steamworks. She was really surprised to see the two of them and didn't expect such visitors to see her.
Hello there. My name's Victoria. Who are you?
Hello, I'm Henry, and this is Rocky, and we're here to drop you off to the steamworks.
The steamworks? You mean I'm finally getting out of here for good?
Definitely. We have orders from our controller, Sir Topham Hatt. The workmen there are going to give you a new coat of paint and new wheels too.
Victoria was very relieved to hear all of that. She already started imagining herself looking like a useful coach again. She just couldn't wait to get started.
All right then, let's get you onto the flatbed.
Meanwhile, Edward was being mended at the steamworks so he can take the summer visitors when they come to the island. But he was very bored and needed to talk to someone to help pass the time. His wish came true when Henry and Rocky were dropping the old coach next to him. He was surprised to see her.
Why, hello there. Who are you?
My name's Victoria. I'm an old coach, as you can see, but I'm here to be useful again.
You don't say. You must tell me about yourself.
Edward could have sworn that Victoria looked familiar. He was one of the first engines to be on the island, so he had to know her somehow. After Rocky put her onto a plank of wood, she started telling Edward her true story.
But where I'm from, I was a coach in Lakeside on the mainland. It was such a beautiful place to be at. There was lots of steamboats and many passengers to take. My friend, Helena and I were Albert's coaches. He was very kind, polite, and cared about us. He took his jobs very seriously and didn't stop at nothing. But then one winter came and he got the best out of him.
Really? How so?
Well, the lake by one of the stations was frozen due to the cold freeze, so the passengers weren't able to get on the steamers and go to the other side of the station. That meant we had to do the work ourselves. The snow wasn't terrible. There weren't only little flakes of it at first, but when we made it to the halfway point, the snow became very thick and a bit difficult. But he was very determined to take the passengers. Throughout the journey, he had the option to take a snowmobile, but he refused and didn't mind the snow at all.
Yes, that's exactly what Thomas thought, but he got what he had coming.
Then you're going to love hearing what happens next. When all the passengers climbed into us, we immediately left the station. The rails were shaking from the speed. We were going and we were heading to a tunnel. There was so much snow in the top of the entrance and about to head for trouble. As soon as we were getting close to the tunnel, steam from Albert was flying in the air, and a loud rattle made the snow on top come off the tunnel like an avalanche. As soon as we got to the entrance, the snow fell right on top of Albert and everything stopped at once. Snow laid all over him and there was no way we could go any further. Luckily no one was hurt, but it took hours for the workmen to finally arrive to dig up all the snow. I never felt so cold in my entire life. After the incident, Albert learned to be more careful with the snow and made sure to wear his snowplow.
Wow, that sounds a lot like Thomas. This is event with the snow. When he refused to wear his snowplow, maybe the two are related, like long-lost cousins or something.
The two laughed and continued to chat and know each other more while they were getting mended and repaired. Summer arrived on Solo, and yet Victoria was still being mended. It was taking a much longer time than everyone thought, so the engines took care of the summer visitors every day while she was still in the works. But with the sun and summer heat, the engines felt really hot and it made the green grass go dry. But that also meant that the animals can move around in the heat too, before the cold weather arrives again. Daisy's been seeing a lot of the animals in the grass. One creature caught her attention. It was a long, slippery stick-looking creature, and it didn't even have any legs. She was surprised to see such a thing that her driver had to explain what it was.
That's a snake, Daisy. It hides in the grass and hunts for its prey during the summer, when it's hot enough for them to move around.
But how do they move? They don't have any legs.
That's funny, because you don't have legs either, and yet you're able to move without them. Anyway, they move by slithering their bodies from left to right like fish do. So not all species are meant to have legs.
Daisy was impressed and later told the other engines about what she learned at the sheds. Percy wasn't so sure.
I don't like the idea of having those little creepy things sliding around in me. They better not be around me when I'm passing by their fields.
Don't worry, Percy. I doubt they want to mess with a giant green caterpillar that runs on rails.
Hey, watch it, Thomas.
Thomas thought his joke was hilarious, but Daisy was too busy thinking about the snakes.
If they're around me, I wouldn't worry about those poor creatures one bit. I will just leave them be and mind my own business.
But her opinion changed when she was dropping off some boxes at a junction. The workmen were carefully putting them on the platform, and her driver explained what the boxes were carrying.
The boxes we're dropping off have eels in them.
Eels? What are they?
Well, they're like snakes but can only breathe in water. Some types of them can be very dangerous by carrying poison or being electrical. But these are the types that are small and can be used as food or pets. So we're safe and there's no worries about them.
Daisy was a bit confused about how the electric eels can be underwater or how they can be pets. But she lost train of thought when she realized that the workman finished unloading the boxes from her. So she started getting ready to pull the milk tank. She's not a fan of pulling the milk, but she knows it's a very important healthy liquid that people drink to make them strong. But then trouble happened. A clueless boy was walking onto the platform, then he bumped into one of the boxes. The box landed right in front of Daisy, and it broke into little pieces, revealing the small eels that were inside of it. And Daisy had a reaction that no one saw coming.
Ah! Those don't look anything like snakes.
The workmen chased the boy away before he caused any more trouble, and they couldn't help but laugh at Daisy for being afraid of harmless eels.
Don't just stand there. Help me, please.
One of the workmen grabbed a bucket of water to put the eels in, and started to pick them up and quickly fix the problem. Her driver couldn't help but laugh about what just happened, and Daisy was feeling very embarrassed.
You broke your safety valves again from that serious freak-out you had. So we'll need another engine to help you get to the shed so they can be fixed.
Daisy didn't like that at all. She knew the others would tease her about the eel incident, and she was right. When she was back at the sheds that night, the other engines laughed about it. She didn't feel proud of herself for liking snakes anymore. She was very embarrassed and didn't say a word.
Don't worry, Daisy. In my old railway, there was a place called Ely, meaning that there were lots of eels in a lake over there for people to look at. Imagine seeing that in real life.
Daisy didn't listen to Toby and went to sleep at once while waiting for her fitter to fix her valves the following day. Victoria was finally out of the works and was ready to be on the rails after a very long time. Edward helped take her to the junction where they would be meeting Thomas and Sir Topham Hatt. On the way, she was feeling the wind blowing to her face and felt like she was freshly built again.
Man, it feels so nice to be back. I can't wait to carry passengers again today.
Edward was very happy to hear that as they made it to the junction. Thomas was amazed to see how much she changed, with her new coat of paint and looking more modern with the new parts she got. Sir Topham had walked up to her and told her what was about to happen now.
You seem to be very happy, Victoria, and I'm glad how they mended you. You're really good looking and look like you're ready to work on the rails again.
Oh, sir, I really am, sir. Thank
Thank you very much for having the work safely useful again.
You're very welcome. You should thank Thomas too, because he's the one who told me about you.
So Victoria did, and Thomas gave her a very happy whistle because of how happy he was for her.
Now on to business. You will be riding with Thomas and his coaches up to the valley where you will meet Toby and Henrietta.
Victoria was very excited to hear that, so she was coupled up to Clarabelle, and the four set off. She, Annie, and Clarabelle immediately got along and were chatting to get to know each other more, while Victoria was loving the ride and was even more excited to carry passengers and the inspector later that day to see how she runs. Meanwhile, Terence was carrying a wagon full of stone, and he was on a very steep road. It was for a new barn that was being built, and he was in charge of bringing the stone there. He was being very careful on the steep road, but then there was trouble. Out of nowhere, a large stone landed right in front of him, and he swerved to the right to avoid it. But the wagon fell off the road, and all the stones landed on the tracks while the wagon landed right next to it. Terence was able to stay on the road, but now he was very worried.
Oh dear, this is terrible. Thomas will be coming along this line in a bit. We have to stop him before it's too late.
So his driver called for help, and perfect timing too. As soon as Thomas was about to go around the bend, there was a red flag as a warning to stop. When he spotted the flag, he immediately put on his brakes and came to a complete stop just in time. The stone rocks were right in front of him, and the inspector hopped off to see if the rails were damaged after the workmen moved the stones out of the way.
The rails are safe to move on. Yes, make up for lost time.
After he climbed back into Victoria, Thomas set off once more to make it to the valley. When they got there, Toby, Henrietta, and Sir Topham Hatt were all there to see them and greet the new coach. After the passengers climbed out, Sir Topham Hatt made a speech to celebrate Victoria.
As we know, there aren't many railways that have a train like Toby, Henrietta, and Victoria, the vintage train for this branch line. But we needed a coach like Victoria to help us round in such perfect timing, and I think we should give her a big cheer for her long-awaited comeback, for being a useful coach again.
All the passengers cheered. Toby rang his bell and Thomas blew his whistle. Victoria thought it was the best thing to ever happen to her and the best day of her life as well. Now Toby had an extra coach to take the workmen from the quarry without any trouble at all. The two coaches immediately got along and became best friends. Once in a while, she would be Thomas's third coach if he has way too many passengers to take. She became more of a really useful coach than she expected, and nothing could take away from that for many years to come.